is Joakim Sandegård. I play guitar in the Riven.
And my name is Totta. I am the singer of the Riven, and you're listening to Godless Heathens.
Lightning. Fire. Power of God or something.
He died for our sins.
That shall be his undoing.
Hey, what is going on here?
Shocking. Positively shocking.
That's just funny. Fuck you.
I love it when a plan comes together.
Hey, come here. Hi. God damn it.
Okay, now, if by any chance I get, like, flustered, when I'm hurling through space, and I pull the red one first.
Oh, well, then you're gonna wind up looking like a well-done chili burger. They're gonna have to shovel you into a coffin.
Find and fulfill your destiny.
You bastard. Drop dead!
Item 2 request.
You remember one thing. If you screw up just this much, you'll be flying a cargo plane full of rubber dog shit out of Hong Kong. I'm Larry.
Fuck off, Larry.
Guys, thank you so much for doing this. And we're going to be talking about their new album. It's Peace and Conflict, and it comes out November 25th. It's going to be on the Sun Records. And I guess, first of all, what I wanted to ask you, can you tell us a little bit about how each of you joined the Riven, and then we'll just start talking about the new album.
Sure thing. Maybe I should go first then.
Yes.
So I'm one of the founding members. But we started the band we lived in London, me, the bass player Max, and the guitarist, one of the guitarists, Arnau. We formed the band there back in, I believe, like late 2016 or something.
Oh, wow.
We had another drummer back then, and we just started out, recorded an EP there, and then we decided to record an album, and then we found our label, The Sign. We then moved the band to Stockholm. And then before the album, we started doing this album we're releasing on the 25th. Joakim joined us. Yes.
Fantastic. And can you talk about the recording, or excuse me, the writing process for Peace and Conflict?
It's very community style. I think we wrote almost all the songs, except maybe one or two, in the rehearsal room all together. So when someone would bring an idea, or we would work up an idea together.
Okay.
And then we just finish it together.
Fantastic. And as far as, was the writing process different for this album than the previous?
I think it was in some ways because we changed some of the members, and we had a different drummer back then, and back then we were only one guitarist. The drummer we have for this album is different, and also having Joakim in the band is another guitarist. It brought a completely different dimension, in my opinion, and also Joakim's way of writing songs for me was very inspiring. It was very nice to have new influences coming into the band and someone else kind of bounce ideas off of.
Fantastic. And then as far as the recording process, tell us about that for this album.
Yeah, do you want to go, or should I go? Yeah, it was really nice. We went all down south to a little house cabin on the yard. So then we set up our own studio. Because Arnau, the other guitar player, he started producing and stuff, and he likes to do that kind of stuff. So we did it all ourselves. And the environment was so inspiring. And as we said before, living close to the water, we were right by the sea. So every morning you could go have a dip, and had some breakfast, and then you would just start recording a song. I think we spent 2 weeks down there. We got 85% of the album done, I think.
And we hang out 24/7. It's kind of nice to go remote recording an album like that, because you have none of the distractions from your everyday life you would if you stay in the city you live in. So you can completely focus on the task.
Yeah, that's and let me ask you this to just kind of to real quick back to the writing. We'll stay with the production, but did you all write a lot of this during COVID? I know a lot of people that are dropping albums right now. A lot of it was written during COVID. Was that a similar situation, or was it not?
A bit of both, right?
Yeah, I would say.
I found it quite difficult to stir up inspiration during COVID because obviously there wasn't a lot of things you could do, so you didn't get a lot of inspiration.
Yeah, no, I agree. Also, it's very inactive during COVID.
Well, you know, what was scary for me, it was really bad. The pandemic where I live, and I avoided it the whole time, and about 4 months ago I got it, and I thought I was going to fucking die. Like, it was very, very bad. And there's a lot of people in this country is very divided over it, that don't believe it's real and all this other stuff, and it's like, oh, it's real. And when you get it, you're going to find out real quick how fucking real it is. And it's funny how the different bands that I speak with, I was just curious. I know it's kind of just a routine or mundane question at this point, but a lot of people that I feel like wrote, a lot of the artists I spoke with, they seem like all different types of genres of music that I speak with, but they all seem to feel like, you know, it was either really hard to write during it, or they got a lot done during, the COVID-19 nonsense. So I was just curious if that was something for you guys or not.
I think I got a lot done, but for me personally, I would like play other guitar styles and learn. I played a lot of country finger picking style throughout the pandemic, but the inspiration wise was no, I did not have any inspiration at all almost.
Yeah. I mean, I can see if you have like that whole like kind of political, how do you say, like divide. How do you say that? Like in your country over COVID, like
sure.
Sorry.
Oh yeah, it was. I mean, seriously.
Like stir up some kind of inspiration, but we didn't really have that in
right.
Sweden. I think it was kind of like a homogeneous group of everybody just handling it.
Well, it's one of those things where I don't think a lot of people probably realize this, or maybe they do, but. Whereas a lot of Europe and a lot of European artists that I speak with, it felt like people were trying to, do what was right to get it taken care of. This country is the complete polar opposite of that, where you've got all these idiots that were going out during the middle of it and were not. I mean, seriously, like where I live, see, I'm dead serious, because Florida was like wide open during it, and acting like everything was fine, and it's like everything's not fine. I lost. My dad died of COVID in 21. We weren't close, but it's what I'm saying. There's literally, this country is, if you guys don't know this, and I'm trying to like a political thing, but seriously, like there are people here that to this day do not believe that it's real because they never got it, and it's like, oh, it's real, and you try to tell people
you always
that.
have those people who believe in conspiracy theories or don't believe the actual thing happened.
Sure. Yeah. Sure. But I love how it seems like a lot of the folks that I've spoke with, like yourselves, in Europe, everybody was trying to get rid of it and do the right thing, where it was not united. Just to tell you, there was nothing united about any of that here. It was polar opposite. You would get made fun of for wearing a mask in public, like myself, and it was really bad. It was very, very messy. But I was just curious about. Sorry, I didn't mean to get off a tangent on that, but. Back to the album, as far as production, what can you tell us about the production of the new album?
Yeah, so Arnau, the guitarist, he was the main man behind the steering wheel when we recorded the album, as like alongside like recording his own parts and everything. So I think he had quite a stressful couple of weeks when we recorded. Then we had Ola Ersfjord do the mixing and the master of the album. He's been mixing our first album as well, so we have like an ongoing relationship with him musically that's been going really well for a few years. So yeah, that felt like a natural choice for us as well.
Now, I was just going to say real quick, so you worked with him on your debut album when you recorded in Spain, is that correct? Okay. Yeah, I'm familiar with him. I know who Tribulation is. Some of the other bands.
He lives in Madrid, so that's why we went there too.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. Very cool. Sorry, I was I just saw that. It was very cool.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a very organic album because we recorded everything live together in a room.
You know, it's what I thought was really interesting. So if you had even wanted to on this new album, could you all have still went to Madrid, or was that not an option because of the pandemic and whatnot?
For the time of the recording, I would say no, right?
No.
That would have been last year. No, that wouldn't have worked. It was like kind of before the vaccine and everything. Or like just when they started it, so that wouldn't have worked.
I bet recording Madrid was interesting. Madrid looks beautiful. I bet that was really interesting to get to do that.
Yes. They have so many good bars, so...
Oh, I'm sure.
Sure was a good time.
It looks beautiful. I mean, it really does.
It was hard to get up in the morning to sing.
No. But even on the new album, so he ended up doing the final mix on it then? Mm-hmm. Ola, okay. Very, very cool. And how did you all end up, even on the first album, how did you eventually finding to work with him?
Well, kind of like what we did then is we kind of realized like we're a new band, we only had like one EP. We realized like we have to have a done deal, like a ready product before we can even engage like a record deal or something like this. And we knew Leif because he's been working with some up-and-coming Swedish bands, and we liked him. So we kind of had all the songs ready to go, more or less, and we contacted him and like proposed for him to work with us. So I think when we got in touch with him, yeah, it was a very like just kind of, you know, natural, sure. Just yeah.
Absolutely. And then the cottage that you recorded the new album in, is it somewhere that, do a lot of people use that studio, or is it something that, or is it actually your all studio?
No, it's actually the whole like summer house, cottage, whatever you call it, of my grandparents. It was built like I think 1962 or something.
Oh, cool.
It's very much not a studio at all. However, we did actually rehearse the first album there, like kind of a production setting, in September 2017.
Okay.
So it just kind of felt natural to go back there. And at the time we were there, there's very few neighbors because it's a summer. It's active in the summers, or we were there early June, so it was. I have a few complaining neighbors, but nothing too bad.
And then for your all's first EP, was it recorded there as well, or was that completely different than the other two?
Yeah, the EP was recorded in East London.
Oh, okay. Did you like recording in London?
It was really cool. But it was... Then we had that kind of thing where we recorded in the city we lived in. And I think that's what we've been trying to get away from, because when you like wake up in your own home, you have your own like, and then you just kind of travel with the public transport to the studio.
Sure.
That feels less exciting.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
Still great, obviously, like living in London and having that opportunity, and like that was great, but yeah, I've enjoyed more like traveling to Madrid or traveling down south to in southern Sweden, because you like leave your everyday life behind and you get to be like the artist you want to be on your record.
Of course. Did you guys have plans to ever go back to Madrid to record again there?
What do you think, Joachim?
No, but that studio is not existing anymore, is it? Because
yeah, true.
Really?
But I think it's new studio now, but it's just outside Madrid instead of the city.
Oh, so he has a new studio that he uses now.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. Very, very cool. And then as far as some standout tracks, each of you, if you want to tell some of your favorite tracks on the new album.
You can go first.
I'll go first, alright. Maybe I'll steal your answer. I don't know, like I have a few of them that I really like, but one that kind of stood out to me during the process was, it's going to be the last song on the album, I think. We already released it as a single. It's called Death.
Okay.
Simply because when the guys recorded the instruments, I just ended up singing along in my mic in the room next to them, and like it was such a great setting. We just ended up keeping the vocals for most part of it. There's some ad-libs in the end. We edited, but so that's like a complete live take, more or less.
Wow.
And that was a very cool feeling. That felt like old school kind of thing.
Do you normally have to do multi-takes when you're doing your vocal tracks when you're recording?
No. What do you mean?
Well, I'm fascinated by what you just said, because I listened to the album yesterday when John asked me to do the interview, and I was like, God damn, like it was very impressive to me. Because there's lots of different vocalists. I grew up down here in Florida, completely different type of music, but a lot of my friends were in the death metal scene, and doing growling vocals, you wouldn't think they'd have to do multi-takes on a lot of this stuff. So I'm very impressed musically by you that you can just be like, bang, done.
Yeah, but that was one song. I mean, I think it's both like a blessing and a curse that we have the technology we got today, being all digital. Because like it's amazing to be able to do retakes, but at the same time you get so like freaking like nitpicking, like
Sure. Pick it apart instead of just leaving it alone. Right. Well, I was very impressed by it. Especially that you did that. Was that the only track on the album where you did that?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Like I said, it's impressive.
It's usually like you sing like a verse or a chorus or something like put together, but
Sure.
then you do, because you kind of need to like catch your breath and catch your energy and.
Fabulous. Well, that's great. I did not know that. That's, like I said, most of the people that I've met, professional musicians, they have to do multi-takes on stuff that you would not, that I personally wouldn't think, just listening to it, that they've done multi-takes on. So I always think it's impressive when somebody can just bang one out, just like done.
Yeah, but that was the one. But yeah, that's why I liked it, because it felt magical in a way.
It is. It's incredible.
What about you, Joachim?
I really like that one as well. I think it's a really cool song. But my personal favorite would probably be the title track, Peace and Conflict.
Okay.
Because I think it has everything. I think we really hit the head on the hammer, as we say in Sweden, on that one. But yes, I think the verse is super cool with your vocals, because it's like one singing and one speaking, but it's almost speaking in a harmony. So it creates a really cool vibe. As a strong chorus. I think me and Arnau plays probably the most exciting guitar part on that song. So overall, I think that song everything came together really good.
Excellent. And then any other tracks? Just feel free, either of you.
Well, we released so far 5 singles, I think it is.
Oh wow.
So
I listened, just real quick.
Want us to release like a lot of teasers.
I listened to the whole album all the way through. I'm an album guy. I just listened to the whole thing. So I thought it was great. I mean,
But there still are a couple of songs that aren't released, and I'm very excited about the 2 of them.
Oh, okay.
So if you're into the singles already, I think you'd like the album as a whole, because I think the songs that are left and the order we put them in really ties.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, it's like I said, I'm completely new to the band, and I'll just listen to it. I put headphones on. I've got a really nice pair of Bose headphones, and I just listen to everything that was available for me to listen to. And but I went back and listened to your previous album. So, like I said, very impressed just in general with the band. What other songs are you excited about releasing that you haven't?
Sorry, come again.
Oh, I'm sorry. What other songs are you excited that you guys haven't let people hear yet? Any of those that you'd like to talk about? Either of you?
Oh, on the album, there is. We ended up having like the working titles on the album. They're all something with time.
Oh, okay.
And then there's this one song left. Today it's called something different, but working title it was called Time Times 3. Because everything was just time. This song in particular, it's very cool because the verses are very kind of soft and very like enigmatic in a way, and then the chorus kind of breaks loose, and it's a lot of noise. It's on the album. It's going to be called Sorceress of the Sky. I think that one is pretty cool.
Awesome.
The Taker. The working title for that was just called Kiss as the band, and then it's just a fun track. I think the chorus is pretty friendly to sing along with, so I'm excited to start playing that one live as well.
So as far as when you guys do live shows moving forward now, is it going to be real heavy on the new album and then less of the EP and the first album, or is it just be a fun mix?
Probably a mix. I think there'll be a couple of songs from the album probably we're going to leave out. I mean, we have the luxury, I guess you can say, where we're not like, I don't know, say Rolling Stones, where you have to play certain songs, or Iron Maiden, where you have to play like the hits. We can kind of pick, because a lot of the people that comes to our gig haven't even heard us so far. So we're probably going to make sure that we have a nice set list that brings you all the energies and all the different dynamics that you would want in a live show.
Oh, fantastic. And let me ask you both this. Right now, hypothetically, fantasy, someone they call you, they ask you, do you guys prefer, and each of you feel free to answer this, do you prefer doing, because I'm always fascinated with this, especially with European bands, because they have the luxury of both, it seems like, and I'd always think it's interesting to me as a fan. Do you prefer doing a tour, or do you prefer doing like festival stuff? If you had to say, like, you know, which would you rather do? Would you rather do like an actual ongoing tour that lasts like, 3 weeks, or would you rather do festival dates throughout the summer?
Just be on the tour all year round.
Oh, okay.
I second that, but I also think doing festivals would be really cool because you get to meet other bands a lot.
It seems like the exposure you get, and again, I'm just basing this on talking with bands for almost 8 years, but it always seemed to me like the festival thing, it's great for what you just said. You get to meet the other bands and stuff. It would also seem like it was a good way to promote the band, and you're reaching an entirely wide range audience doing the different festivals, I would imagine. Because in America, the European festivals, there's nothing like that here, where there's lots of different types of bands. And I love when I see some of the European festivals, and it is literally just a mixture of different types of music, which I think is fascinating, because it would never fly here, ever. It's always like one genre of music. And I've never understood that, because I've actually went into Mexico from Florida just to go to like a festival they'll have down there and to see some of my favorite bands, but I also get to see bands that I would have never seen, because it's such of like a melting pot of bands.
That's true, actually. I've been to multiple festivals where you have like, say, 3 different stages, and one is like heavy metal, one is prog rock, and one is like full on metal, like different genres in metal. So it's true, you really like can like pick whatever you want to see in one day.
Yeah, like I said, it's fascinating to me, because like Hellfest in France, I'll sit and look at the roster for it, and I'm like, because that's probably the closest one that if I was going to try to get to a festival, just to check out, and even see bands that I've chatted with on here, go somewhere like that, and it's just all this different, or like the Sweden Rock Festival. I'll look at the roster for that, and there's all these great bands on there. And there really is nothing like that here, because when they do a festival here, no matter how big or small, it could be gigantic or really, really small, it's still really just one genre of music.
All right. I didn't know that, yeah.
Yeah, if you look up any, and feel free to research this, like it's I don't understand it. Like when they do that, and you'll have some festivals where they're try to mix something in, like you'll have a bunch of like, you know, stuff like these jam bands, and then they'll just throw Slayer on the bill for like no reason. This was like years ago, and I'd be like, what? And it doesn't really work. Whereas like, it seems like in Europe, it's like it can literally be like, you know, you could have Michael Schenker performing on one stage, you guys are on a stage, and then you could have Testament on a stage. And I love that. I think it's so cool, because it is completely foreign to me, because there is nothing like that here, even if I wanted to go to something.
It is cool. I never even really considered it, because it's like what you're growing up with, like that's standard here. Yeah, that makes sense. I never thought about it.
I mean, seriously, it sounds crazy, but it's true. There is nothing like that here. And like I said, you would see every blue moon, they would try to just mix something in with something, and I'd just be like, what? And it's just not worth going to see one band. But I'll look at festivals in Europe and stuff, and it just is very fascinating to me. Have you guys done a lot of festival stuff?
We've done like a couple of smaller ones that are more like a few bands playing together in different towns in Europe. But I mean, hopefully we'll try and book some for the coming summer. But what do you say? I'm losing my words. Competition. Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, and it's like a bottleneck effect now after the pandemic as well, because so many festivals had the lineup for 3 years.
So they're just fulfilling. I didn't realize that they're fulfilling commitments from 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Yeah, I would say it's very competitive getting in one of those festivals as well.
We're in a weird time now as well, where some of the really, really big bands, the old bands, are like literally getting too old to tour. And you haven't really let any newer bands become big, you know? So we're kind of like getting into a void, I think, where like who's going to take over? Like what's going to happen to all these big festivals?
Well, something that I think is interesting, it's funny that you said that, because there are only a handful of bands that are older that I would go see. Like, for example, like right now, and I think it's coming up here in like the next few weeks, Wasp is touring over here, but it's just Blackie Lawless. And I grew up listening to Wasp when it was Blackie Lawless, Chris Holmes, you know, and I'm not paying the money he wants to pay to see him play. And it's like, he's like 70 years old, and he's got none of the original members in it but him. And it's like, no.
Even if he has a chainsaw in his crotch.
I have no interest in going to see that band whatsoever. And I'm not paying that kind of money to do it. And I'll give you another example. Also right now, Merciful Fate is touring over here, but it's like King Diamond and one guitar player is not Merciful Fate to me. Like, I'm older. I saw Merciful Fate the last time they played like the full lineup over here in 93. And it's like, no.
Nice.
I mean, I love King Diamond. If it was just King Diamond, I would totally go pay the money to see it. But it's like, I'm not paying for the Merciful Fate moniker to see him and one guitar player play songs with a bunch of people from either his solo band or hired people that he's brought in there. I'm just not doing it. Yeah. It's like $100.
And it sounds like you shouldn't go and see the ABBA show in London either.
I'm really weird about that. Like, I don't, you know, and there's a lot of that kind of stuff that happens over here in America. You'll have a lot of different, because I like a lot of like AOR or like hair band stuff from like the 80s. And you'll have like one member of this band and they're touring under that. And I'm like, no, I'm not, no, that's not, you know. So it's funny what you're saying, because, you know, there are just a handful of bands where I would actually be like, you know, I'm going to, especially with me, I have like a lot of health problems. I can't just go to a show now. Like, you get some idiot in there and then I end up dying of COVID. It's like, I'm just not doing it. So I have to be real selective about it just as a fan. But it's funny what you're saying, because it's completely the truth. And the stuff that sells over here, you know, because I just had this conversation recently with an artist I was speaking with about playing in Europe as opposed to playing, and he's from America, but he it's the vocalist Johnny from Axl Rudy Pell, and he's like, I make all my money in Europe. I don't make any money in America. Like, if we brought that over here, it wouldn't make any money. You know, so...
He's big in Germany, isn't he?
Yes. I mean, I love, if you've ever listened to Axl Rudy Pell, I love that stuff's great, but I'll never get to see it unless I go to Europe if I want to see them perform. But, you know, their vocalist is from New York, and it's like, we were talking about how, wow, you know, you can't make any money, you know, in this country playing certain different types of music. It's funny how a lot of stuff in Europe, and I love Europe just for this alone, it's kept stuff alive that I would have never, you know, expected to be alive. Like, do you guys know who the band Heat is from Sweden? I fucking love that band, and I'll never get to see them because they will never come over here probably, because that type of stuff doesn't fly. Like, if I wanted to go see that,
yeah, and visas are so difficult.
well, that too, but it's like Skid Row's got this great new album out with their, I guess, the second Heat vocalist, Eric or whatever's on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, it's great. It's amazing. That fucking record is amazing, and they probably will play a few places over here, but they're making all their money playing in Europe right now, and I don't blame them. You know, you're gonna make all your money to do that. So, but it's fascinating to me.
Germany is great for rock.
Amen. So, real quick before this thing runs out, I want to thank you guys so much for taking the time to do this today. I think the album is great. What I've heard of it, and then the previous record's killer. Flipped through the EP, loved it too. You guys can get the new album from the Riven, and it's going to be available November 25th. And it's really good, what I've heard of it. So,
Apparently the records are pressed.
What's that? Oh, what were you saying? I'm
So
sorry.
the records are pressed and ready to go very soon.
Awesome.
Thank you, and thank you very much for having us on board, and everybody listening and everything. Thank you so much for giving us your time.
Thank you. We appreciate you.
Crackerjack timing, Wang. Total concentration. You ready, Jack? I was born ready.
I don't know how, but they found me. Run for Marty! Oh my God. They found me. I don't know how, but they found me. Run for Marty!
Doc, take us out.
Ready, good sir.
Not a tear to the eye. I'll be quiet.